Good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on artificial intelligence titled Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, Enabling Post-COVID Recovery and Driving Future Growth Dimensions. Please allow me to take a couple of minutes here to set the context before I turn to our galaxy of speakers here. Now, we all know that the importance of digital transformation has accelerated many folds in the last few months. COVID-19 has brought to the fore the importance of digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, in addressing the healthcare crisis, restarting supply chains, enabling online education, and almost every aspect of the economy. Fair to say that we are in the age of artificial intelligence. It has begun to have a profound impact on our lives and our society. AI, ML, and allied technologies are expected to drive the next wave of transformational economic growth and disruption across nations. Enterprises have been experimenting with AI for a wide range of applications, for more personalized sales and marketing, to improving customer experience, driving greater productivity, and generally delivering more intelligent automation across a range of business functions. Business leaders across industry sectors are increasingly aware of AI as a force multiplier for their businesses, and AI today is a pervasive force across industries such as banking and financial services, telecoms, where I come from, high-tech, healthcare, education, retail, governance, agriculture, and manufacturing, you name it. Fair to say that AI has also been identified by our government as one of the most potent weapons in our fight against numerous challenges, and even in our present intense war against the COVID-19 pandemic. The government of India has been at the forefront in applying some of these cutting-edge AI technologies in areas from e-governance, agriculture, healthcare, education, finance and banking, to law enforcement. AI-powered tools like MyGov Corona Help Desk, Arogya Setu, and CoWIN are some examples of how the government is leveraging AI and data to address the big challenges. As per a NASSCOM report released in August 2020 called India Opportunity, that showcases that an integrated data utilization strategy can actually add anywhere from $450 to $500 billion to India's GDP by 2025. In the immediate term, data and AI can play a strong enabling role across sectors. Of course, healthcare is an obvious example, but even workforce planning and protection, increasing farmer income, water management, financial health, and support for MSMEs, all these and many more can be supported with an effective data utilization strategy. At the same time, we need to incentivize R&D and innovation to solve for India, accelerate India's journey as a global hub for data analytics and AI, and catalyze innovative startups. Learning from best practices of countries like the US, a coordinated program we believe is needed across 5 building blocks. And those are strategy, data, technology stack, talent, and execution to capture this option. With that said, I'm honored and welcome to invite Mr. Samir Sheth, Environment, Science and Technology Unit Chief, US Department of State, to give his thoughts on the subject. Over to you, Samir.
Okay, so thank you so much, Arun. So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm so delighted to be participating in the 17th Indo-US Economic Summit. This is my first time participating. And so it's an honor to be sitting here with all these experts and distinguished group of practitioners on artificial intelligence and machine learning issues. I will just start off with just saying the US and India strategic partnership, it's really expanding. Every year it's expanding. I mean, I've watched our partnership since 25 years. And so I see continual advancement in all facets of human endeavor. It's just amazing, from vaccine production to other areas, scientific and technology areas. And so AI is basically another area where it's expanding. So science and technology innovation with AI and machine learning as its new and emerging pillars is a driver for global economic growth and increased productivity of workers in any economy. This is true for both developed and developing economies. Science and technology cooperation between the United States and India spans many sectors, from space cooperation to clean energy and beyond. In part, our cooperation in science diplomacy is a positive story. And often the story is like not in the press as much as military relations or security relations or political relations, but it's just as important. And it's one that we want to propagate to both our peoples. Freedom of inquiry, merit-based competition, openness and transparency, accountability and reciprocity underpin our collaboration, and will continue to benefit our science and technology ecosystems, as well as our broader relationship. So since the United States and India are democracies, AI is a very, very critical area where we can both work to set the right standards that we want, that democratic societies deserve. India's emergence as a regional and global power and critical partner to the United States in science and technology creates an opportunity for us to expand our relationship from traditional bilateral partners to one of global partners. We really see India as a key partner in the Pacific region, and one area where we can focus is on technology-led growth and development globally. So I think we all agree that AI technologies have seized the world's attention, as Arun pointed out, and driven by advances in computer power, machine learning algorithms, and greater data availability, AI holds tremendous promise in revolutionizing industries and helping lift people into prosperity around the world. And also to battle climate change and to help in health and education. At the same time, there's a to ensure responsible stewardship of AI R&D. As with any new technology, whether it's a car or something, it can be used as an instrument for negative actions. But we have to ensure that AI is used responsibly and maximizes benefits for society while minimizing the risk with the misuse of AI technologies. And so international cooperation is very critical to develop metrics, methodologies, standards, best practices, and tools to support the design, development, and use of trustworthy AI technologies. And so we believe our cooperation with India will be critical for supporting foundational and use-inspired research that expands the frontier of scientific knowledge for all countries and people around the world, and to help achieve economic prosperity and security. Now, the United States has we've been active in fostering a responsible approach to AI by promoting cutting-edge research, encouraging groundbreaking applications, and creating new economic opportunities for our workers and users alike. And so the United States and India are making strides in advancing AI by focusing on public and private research and development investments, and addressing the critical challenge of developing a diverse AI-savvy workforce in both of our countries. AI provides the means to augment our joint expertise in areas such as health, biotechnology, space, agriculture, and emphasis on science and innovation. It holds a potential to unlock tremendous innovation opportunities that can further grow and boost our economies and create benefits for us for many decades in the future. Now, on March 21st, the United States and Indian scientific communities began collaborating began an AI dialogue under the US-India Artificial Intelligence Initiative. And that was led by the Indo-US Science and Technology Forum, which has been around since the 1990s. The forum was created by both of our governments to foster national science and technology priorities of both nations, and to serve as an independent bridge for convening the multiple stakeholders needed to accomplish our science, technology, and innovation goals. The US and India Artificial Intelligence Initiative seeks to influence the development of AI research and development that is trustworthy, promotes AI applications for the social good, because we're both democracies, so we believe that it should be for the social good, and develop an AI competent workforce that collectively will benefit both countries. As part of this initiative, the US and Indian scientific communities have engaged on AI topics through at least 4 or 5 roundtables. And some of these topics are trustworthy AI for social good, principles of trustworthy AI, trustworthy security systems, institutional trust, and federated AI and computational trust. We believe the United States and India must collaborate. There's no choice but to collaborate with other democratic nations to send a clear message about our shared values and support for AI R&D and an innovation that builds public trust and confidence. The United States and our partners and allies must ensure that emerging technologies like AI are 1, safe, 2, secure, and 3, beneficial to free societies and democratic societies. So issues that need to be addressed are data localization and privacy laws, which could hinder the usefulness of these technologies. International collaborations will be essential for supporting research on AI systems that ensure fairness, accountability, transparency, security, and safety. So I look forward to the work of the Indo-American Chamber to take this take this AI partnership and ties between our two countries forward, because it will involve all parts of society, especially the private sector and businesses, which are the hubs of technological innovation. And so, I guess I will stop there, but I think there's no better time. And so artificial intelligence it's a new area that both countries are now focusing this year. And so I see, good scope for the years ahead. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Samir, for your profound thoughts on how AI and allied technologies can be the fulcrum of Indo-US relationship going forward, which is already quite deep based on our shared democratic values and converged economic interests. Your point about responsible approach to AI resonates very well with us, Samir, so thank you for making that point. Trust is another topic that you brought up, and we will be discussing the trust aspects in detail during the session later in the afternoon today. So thank you for sort of pointing us in that direction. With that amazing start, now it's my privilege to introduce our esteemed panel members. So first up, Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Growth Tech Mahindra. We have Mr. Stephen Matthias, Senior Partner, Kochar & Company. Mr. Keshav Dhakar, General Counsel, Microsoft India. Ms. Mamta Madhireddy, Center Director, Head of Operations, GSC Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, Vizag at HSBC Digital Business Services. And Mr. Hariharan Ramakrishnan, Vice President, Digital and Analytics, Motherson Sumi Infotech and Designs Limited, also called MIND. Welcome to the panel discussion, esteemed panelists. It's my honor to have you on board. And let me start the panel discussion by turning to you, Keshav. We all know that the pandemic has made businesses strategize and execute in ways that no one would have envisioned a few years back. Are you now seeing AI as a mainstream disruptive technology and enterprises leveraging the power of AI to unlock new sources of growth to survive and indeed thrive? Your thoughts, Keshav?
Thank you, Arun. And I want to compliment Samir for a great start. It is a pleasure to join the Indo-US Economic Summit. We all wish we could do this in person. So let me start by stating the obvious, Arun. Over the last 18 months, there have been unprecedented amount of tech adoption and innovation acceleration all across. As Satya Nadella famously said, what we forecasted for 2 years happened in just 6 to 8 months, right? And so today what we are seeing is the tech intensity, which is a combination of tech adoption and building tech capability, is rapidly growing in India and around the world and is on a momentum, which I think is unstoppable. I think it is important to note that prior to the pandemic, tech adoption was considered important and there were tech capabilities and skilling were on a slow pace, but the pandemic clearly brutally woke every industry, every sector, every organization. And digital tech is now considered essential, or you would say critical. And we are seeing tech skilling and reskilling is now everyone's priority. If you look at the number of programs and projects that are running, including the government investments in this area. But I think when we look back, we should always think of these 3 mega tech trends that have been shaping the world even from the pre-pandemic times, which is the rise of big data and in abundance. Today, every company generates big data. Second, extraordinary and cloud computing infra, capacity and availability. And then lastly, development of cutting edge and powerful algorithms. So I think when you think of these trends in motion, cloud, data, and AI, it's central to every enterprise and government's digital journey, not just to innovate, be productive, but to be future-proof and resilient against events like COVID-19, which we're all going through, but to also solve challenges faced by humanity, on Earth, right? But nothing is more important than examples. And I'm sharing a few where we have played a role in the enablement. Healthcare, right? And these examples are across all sectors. The Apollo Hospital built an AI-powered bot to enable self-assessment of the symptoms. We had banking where ICICI Lombard built the first AI-enabled car inspection for insurance claims. In manufacturing, we saw L&T develop a connected equipment platform powered by IoT and AI. EdTech and education has been revolutionized completely, and we are seeing it every day, how our kids are learning and growing. And we were happy to tie up with CBSC, the largest K-12 education body, to train teachers and integrate AI into classroom teaching. So it's just great to see how AI is, from being a high tech, is getting into schoolrooms, right? Government in Digital India, I think we are very proud about the way the tech architecture is getting revolutionized using the power of cloud data and AI. For examples of Sathi chatbot, where AI-based information curation is taking place. Punjab government's Kova app, where citizens can find information on COVID, was powered by Azure AI. And travel and hospitality industry, I think, which kind of got badly hit, is set to be disrupted. And we see Oyo adopting cloud and AI to accelerate their product stack across the corners of the world, right? And I think we don't have to even speak on the startup unicorn. They're all cloud natives. They are born with cloud and AI in their mind when they are on the path of innovation. So I think today, Arun, AI is democratic and is available to all businesses of all sizes. So no one should be staying behind. Every CXO or a board should have AI in their growth plans, because it is time to be disruptive or be disrupted. But I think I just want to end my first talk to say that, to what Samir emphasized and you, I think, acknowledge that as AI adoption becomes all pervasive, we need to really keep in mind the responsibility of AI, responsible AI principle, ethical consideration and governance. And I know Stephen will talk about that, and I look forward to that section of today's session. Thank you.
Thanks, Keshav. And you covered a lot of ground in a very small passage of time. So you're rightly pointing to the fact that the tech intensity acceleration. So digital transformation was already underway, and what the pandemic has probably done is accelerate manifolds the pace of change, and the rise of big data, the cloudification of everything, if I may use the term, the rise of powerful algorithms, and your examples across all sectors, including education, K-12, education, healthcare, so on and so forth. Of course, banking and financial services, you name it, e-governance, everywhere the adoption has really ticked up. And as you said, AI is democratic, so that resonates very well. And I think the point that every speaker here is making is about responsible AI, and I think Stephen would have a few words to say about that when we get to him. But thank you, Keshav, for your opening remarks. Now, coming to you, Jagdish, one of the significant challenges, especially the IT industry has been facing today, is the lack of sufficient talent, especially those with AI and data science skills, to cope with the huge demand that is coming from enterprises to leverage data as a strategic asset and build their data and AI strategy. So to take upon Keshav's point, as AI gets more democratized, do we have the skills heft and the depth to sort of take care of that? So in your expert opinion, what specific steps is the IT industry taking to address the skills gap issue in the AI and data sciences field?
First of all, Arun, thank you. This could be, this is a topic that gets discussed in almost every forum, but I think the more we discuss, the better it gets, because the chances of, new ideas coming together, new thoughts coming together, come together. And I think it does require a huge amount of work across the board on different forums to come together. So Arun, your initiative from IACC is absolutely a laudable initiative, and thank you for doing that. Keshav's views, Samir's views, and the leaders following this will be also critical. To your point about skills, I think we are living through it right now. We are at the most interesting phenomena where, the growth in the IT industry post-pandemic has been very, very encouraging. And both whether it is OEMs and product companies like Microsoft that Keshav represents, or whether it's services companies like us, that TechM that we represent, there is a tremendous amount of growth. And I think we are riding that wave. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to make sure we make the best out of it. However, the biggest challenge, as you raised right now, is really the skill. If you look at it, the huge amount of perspective and skills is that about jobs of analytics. Just to give you some statistical data, a recent survey suggested that the jobs for analytics professionals have the highest proportion at 33.7%, which is followed by machine learning and then by cybersecurity. So, 33.7 for analytics, 20.4 odd for this, and 15 or 16 odd for cybersecurity makes up almost more than, and all of this, cybersecurity without AI, analytics without AI, it's just not possible. So each of these have their tremendous amount of, industry relevance. The reason why, to understand why this skill shortage is happening, why this demand is high, I think we need to step back a little and see why it's happening. There is immense amount of data that you and I are generating, businesses are generating. And, while storage companies and cloud companies and all of those are the infrastructure that are required to be able to do it. And, good luck to them, because they are on an upswing in terms of making significant amount of business revenues out of this. But at the end of it, what does this data mean is where the business lies, right? So we can collect humongous amounts of data, but if you don't make an insight into it or a meaning out of it, we will not be able to drive value out of the system. So businesses are expected to automate their operations and primarily almost significant number of manual rules. And that's why the need for AI and ML. And that's why, the hiring growth for AI specialists has grown between 74 to 76% annually over the past few years. Every year it's been growing. And the average base salary in the US is approximately about $150,000. And similarly in India, it's approximately about between 12 to 14 lakhs per year. Average salary is what I'm talking about, a base. So that's the nature of the demand that it has created because of the humongous amount of volume of data that you're creating. Again, organizations like you are doing a tremendous work in AT&T, etc., in connecting the pieces. Then the rest of us are coming together to live on that connectivity to build the data story. Now the challenge of skill. For example, in my company itself, we could do a lot more every quarter. And this is the biggest discussion that we have almost every week in terms of fulfilling these opportunities and fulfilling the skills that are required. What is the industry doing? I think there is 2 or 3 things that the industry is doing, and NASSCOM specifically, which I am very closely associated, is doing this in collaboration with the industry. So what we've done is to enable this, while we talk about skill shortage, there are a bunch of engineering colleges and so on and so forth that are generating humongous amount of engineering and qualified degrees to this. But the question is, are they trained on this technology to be productive? That's where the skill shortage discussion happens. Otherwise, in our minds, we will continue to think that what's wrong? There is still unemployment of graduate engineers. Why are we not able to deploy them? I think it's the skill that is missing. And I think therefore, 2 things. One, we in NASSCOM, or the teams in NASSCOM, or the IT companies, has already developed standards across 4 technologies: AI, IoT, cloud computing, and cybersecurity. And this has been done in consultation with the industry. The OEMs, the product companies, us as services companies, we've created a standard. We call it the Future Skills Program. This Future Skills Program works very effectively with the Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics. And we are doing this collaboratively where they're developing and driving skill development across India. And because it is digital, it can be done from anywhere. It's like, a tier 3, tier 4 city, anywhere in the country. People can participate, take those courses and get them. And the government provides an incentive for people who participate in it, right? So there is a lot of push to get people scaled up rather than rely only on base qualification of saying that you're an engineer, so you can do this. And that's the mindset that we've got to change, where we are not limited to only have engineering degrees and so on and so forth to be able to be the only source for AI. And the West has shown us that in many ways. The other area that Arun is working is, which is I think relevant for today's discussion, is there's a lot of work we are doing with the US government, US industry bodies to be able to drive that. One of those, they are broken down into three categories: research and development. We are doing research and development jointly with US universities and with institutions in natural language, that is NLP, AI systems research, a joint research on to decrease cost of use of emerging tech so that you can be used more effectively, accelerating application of AI in key sectors. As you know, I think Keshav talked about usage of AI. Sameer talked about ethics in AI. Ultimately, AI in itself doesn't do anything. It's got to be applied to solve a business problem. So, it's no good saying that I know AI. There is nothing as saying that you know AI. It's about say, how do we apply AI to a particular industry opportunity or industry problem? This morning itself, I was discussing with some of my colleagues on saying that, how do we have specialists in these teams which are looking at our opportunities in every industry, data that is getting generated, and saying what can manufacturing do? What can discrete manufacturing do? What can process manufacturing do? What can autonomous do? You can almost break it down to every sub-level of an industry sector to be able to deliver that. That's where the regulation talent skilling is happening. The other area that's actually the industry is doing, and I think we can do a lot more, is to break, as I said, create a standards across the board, make sure that it's not limited to a qualification level for us to be only used. And third is train our people to start looking aggressively at robotics and mundane jobs to be replaced by this, which basically means that then it breaks the myth saying technology will erase jobs. It will not erase jobs, it will create new. But unless and until we address those mundane jobs and replace them with AI and machine learning and data science, it will continue to bog us down from productivity onwards and we'll be taken over. So to me, I think those are the key three things that the industry is doing: creating a standard which is easily applicable across, doesn't limit it. Second, breaking it down to qualification barriers. Third is making sure people know from a behavioral perspective. And we are doing a lot about it in Tech Mahindra. Our HR, of all places where you expect a human being to always be available, we have created actually a physical robot within HR, which actually it walks around the floors and it can ask you some basic questions. You can get some answers just to get a feel from people saying, guys, the future is going to be about dealing with machines. You have to be able to be more comfortable dealing with machines as you were with human beings. This is no longer a Star Wars movie, Arun. This is reality, and this is
Wow.
not too far away.
Amazing.
It's not. So while our robots are the Alexas and the Google Homes of the world that we are used to in voice searches, you will soon have almost a Boston Scientific type of setup where you have a robot sitting next to you and talking to you and getting your job done. That's the reality, not too far off, 3 years, 4 years from now.
Extremely fascinating, Jagdish, and thank you for sort of unraveling the mystery around why the skills gap. So you've sort of laid it out very beautifully, and also how the industry is responding to bring forth industry-ready skills that can be applied straight off the bat. And like you said, AI doesn't work in isolation. It has to be applied to solve problems and to sort of generate those kind of skills where, it's not just the engineering colleges, but a wider ecosystem that comes into play. So thank you for that, and very fascinating story about the, the HR robot. Thank you for that. Now, moving on quickly to Mamta. Mamta, you come from the banking and financial sector. Can you briefly share how banks have been leveraging AI as this industry traverses through its digital journey?
Sure, and thank you, Arun, for having me here, and good afternoon, everybody. I think to your question, Arun, the different strategies around innovation and digital transformation have been around in the financial services industry even before the pandemic, right? It was obviously running at its own pace. Now, as technology developed over the years, we've seen that the customer landscape itself, slowly experienced a huge shift in terms of the level of service they expect. They want more personalized services, quicker turnaround time, and the quality of service. And AI and data science, as everybody is aware, has been a key enabler for this transformation. While going digital is not new for banks, COVID-19 has acted as a catalyst, not just for banking, right, for all organizations to rework and reprioritize their digital strategies. And while the need for transformation has been accentuated, financial organizations have to make banking more easier for customers, and we have to make banking more secure for customers. And when it comes to managing the finances, customers are looking definitely for more immersive experiences, and they want to be part of a trusted online ecosystem. And this presents a great opportunity to adopt AI, including machine learning and other advanced data science techniques, while developing a combination of people, right? I mean, Jagdish spoke about skills and talent. It's a combination of people and technology to constantly, drive change. Now, as the financial industry travels through what we say our digital journey or the digital strategy journey, leveraging AI, data science, etc., the three main areas that I would want to cover today, Arun. One is how AI is creating personalized digital interactions between banks and customers, how AI is making banking more secure, and how AI is actually assisting banks to contribute to their very, very important sustainability goals. And if I talk about the personalized digital interactions, now what do customers expect from the banks? Right, today, they not only expect banks to help them complete their everyday banking tasks digitally with ease, but they're also seeking broader and deeper digital interactions. They want timely insights, they want relevant insights, bite-sized content, including gamified learning, networking platforms, and social sharing functionality. So using gamification and personalized online activities, largely driven by AI, banks are also helping customers to become more financially engaged and also develop, their own capabilities. If I have to give an example, at HSBC, we've launched what is called an HSBC community. It's a digital membership program, which we launched in China, where customers can explore areas like investment, retirement planning, and they accumulate points, right, for the knowledge that they've gained, and they can use those points to unlock benefits like exclusive product offerings. Another area where we used AI is to fill the ATMs, and this happened in Hong Kong and is getting rolled out across other markets as we speak. And this AI helps to calculate how much money is needed and where. This is called the iCash AI technology. So it uses live ATM data, it uses predictive machine learning algorithms that factor in things like seasonality, holidays, location, recent withdrawal trends and holidays. So this ensures that there's right amount of cash in the right places. You're basically cutting the number of deliveries and then you're contributing, to the environment indirectly. In the next few years, I mean, as technology, grows exponentially, I think customers would look for more personalized services like maybe an instant home buying decision. We'll probably have a situation where, you point your phone at a house of your dreams, you're talking to your banking app, they'll exactly tell you what is your monthly mortgage repayment amount, and plus any other additional information like local services, taxes, etc., all, in that instant second. The second point that I would want to talk about is how is AI helping banking become more secure? And banks need to know their customers well, and customers need to trust the banks. I think trust really being the operative word. And for this, banks need to stay ahead of fraudsters, and investing in AI forms part of the solution for banks to fight fraud. And financial institutions are increasingly using AI to accelerate scanning of transactions, right, for any suspicious activity and highlight any change in customer behaviors very early. And AI has helped banks to develop capabilities to fight fraud at every level in the bank. And it has been observed that these solutions are made far more effective when humans confirm and clarify the return, insights. I mean, Jagdish spoke about not just the technology or AI, but the application of it. And this is where I think the element of, human intervention comes in. And AI helps banks to stay compliant with new regulations and even anti-money laundering rules. We spoke about big data, the huge volume of data that banks deal with nowadays, right? So AI tools have become crucial to determine if any suspicious activity is being perpetuated and really sparing, I think, employees in the banks to manually review huge volumes of data. And AI generated fraud alerts, right, go to customer smartphones directly. It actually puts the customers in the front line in helping the bank fight fraud. And with banking in the customer's phones now, AI can help banks deliver a far superior and a far safer customer experience. And the third element I want to talk about is really AI for sustainability. The climate crisis is real, right? And banks have a greater responsibility towards contributing to this cause. And AI and machine learning have done a brilliant job, for banks to measure their sustainable footprint more accurately. It helps banks to reduce their carbon emissions. But in addition to that, banks are in a great position to be able to influence and guide their customers as well, to become sustainable by offering the right products and the right solutions. And with the help of AI, banks can address major climate crises, advising right from your very small businesses to your medium enterprises to your large enterprises to make a significant difference. So the best way forward for banks in this space is to really provide their clients the means to make this transition as swiftly and as fairly as possible. I think everybody who spoke before me spoke about the ethical use of data, ethical use of AI, and I think banks are no different, right? Any decision about using AI must include a definition of the purpose and the potential value it creates for the customers. Banks need to be aware and address the inherent risk of training AI on biased data sets, which potentially could lead to biased, outcomes for the customer, and something to really watch out for. But I think overall, digital journeys have brought banking to our, fingertips. Banking is now in everybody's pocket. It's as simple as and easy as that. But at the end of the day, banking is a relationship. So when you implement digital solutions, prioritizing human touch also becomes important. So digital solutions and human touch go hand in hand. These have never been and will never be in the future mutually exclusive. So banks will always need to constantly maintain that balance between technology and human touch as they travel through their digital journeys. How can banks use technology, right, to ensure customer delight? Like I said, Arun, banking is a relationship, and how AI enables that relationship to be nurtured is the way forward. Thank you.
Fantastic as always, ma'am. The banking is a relationship, couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for providing an amazing insider's view of the digitalization of banking industry and how AI and allied technologies are sort of helping that on three fronts, personalized digital services to improve customer experience, the security aspect, and who would have thought sustainability. So thank you for casting an interesting light on all the three aspects. And of course, it is a relationship, and trust is so important. So Stephen, I know people are dying to hear you, but I'll reserve you for the last. Sorry about that. But from IT to banking and now to manufacturing and automotive, and Hari, coming to you, and the question is, how are AI, ML, and allied technologies aiding the recovery of the overall manufacturing sector? And specific to the automotive sector, which you specialize in, what are the areas that the investments are going into in terms of digital technologies? So, your expert views on that, Hari, over to you. Hari, I know you have some content to display, maybe?
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute. I'm sorry. So I said, thanks a ton, Arun, for the wonderful opportunity to be present amongst such amazing leaders today to present my viewpoint, right? And To take the discussion forward, I'd like to address the first question about how the manufacturing sector can thrive in the post-pandemic world by harnessing the power of AI, ML, and allied technologies. So you can see my. Yeah. So the pandemic didn't really provide companies with a ready reckoner to address the challenges, right? And the global shutdown, the trade restrictions, they created a new situation. And there were questions like, how do we go ahead with the supply chain operations with material transportations getting restricted with the border controls? How do we plan and address growing customer demands? How to address production challenges in the absence of a workforce, etc. Right? Now, in 2021, the industry seeks to be disruption-proof as it resumes operations. I believe ready to deploy solutions will help to restart and ramp up operations as well. At the same time, to address the problems of planning and replanning linked to interruptions at suppliers or manufacturing facilities, manufacturers can think of digitization beyond factory and utilize digital twins and logistic automation to create an end-to-end loop, planning in real time. Again, RPA can easily address operation challenges, wearable technologies, providing an end-to-end visibility with real-time track and trace for order management and allowing a wide range of customer options. Also, firms have traditionally relied solely on internal data, but advanced analytics will definitely be able to improve their planning across business value chains with faster decision making backed by data. How do we address the challenge of reliable and secure storage space? Right. So, machine version algorithms combined with wearable technologies will be able to assist in maintaining the safe distance once operations are resumed. Of course, in many cases they already resumed as such. And at the core of the smart factory ecosystem is also a digital foundation, which essentially creates a holistic ecosystem by connecting different departments, optimizing operations, bringing in transparency, being responsive, and being adaptive and agile. Smart manufacturing ecosystem, on the other hand, includes connectivity, advanced analytics, automation, and advanced manufacturing technologies that will enable companies to transform their operations in everything from production efficiency to product customization, with improvements in speed to market, service effectiveness, and also new business model creation. Now, more than ever, companies need to accelerate adoption of these technologies. Jagdish mentioned in his speech about, not being a Bond movie anymore and a Star Wars movie anymore, and having the reality of robots amongst us. Well, we have it in our factories already within the Motherson Group. You should come and have a look at them. Right? And just to give you an example of a German ancillary company that works with multiple raw material suppliers, and how AI, ML, and overall analytics adoption helped them improve their business. So they faced shipment delays and increased material wastage issues. And for over a million pieces, they had almost 36,000 plus effective pieces which were being reported. And this created an opportunity for them to also switch to smart factory. The challenge, though, for them was they didn't have the tools and digital solutions to track and trace movement of goods, detect anomalies in real time, and therefore their operations were suffering. The fix, prophecy, and factory are two modules of our solution Motive. Motive stands for Motherson Intelligence Framework, which we built in-house, which enable the company to improve operational efficiency and also in detecting patterns that would help them address anomalies in real time. Also, with our smart manufacturing, the smart warehouse management solution, Morango Ledger, which is also blockchain enabled, they were able to track and trace the shipment of the goods And with these solutions, they were also able to reduce their wastage or murder by 70%, improving on-time delivery by using track and trace methods of movements of the goods and increasing the operation efficiency by over 40%. Now, coming to your second question about the technology investments in the automotive sector. So there are heavy investments going on in technology today, done for digital solutions in the EV space, for example. Companies like Tesla, Volkswagen, General Motors, and even Indian companies such as Tata Motors, and of course my very own alma mater, Mahindra Group, who are who are betting big on the EV segment. And today's consumers, they're also very queer set because they demand more than just entertainment and navigation. They need a fully integrated, connected vehicle experience. So AI-based autonomous vehicles are the pace setter in the auto industry today. They're enabling smart travel methods through self-driving cars. Blockchain also enables to share vehicle data over a secure network for connectivity and shared mobility. Also, 3D printing is getting used in a big way in rapid prototyping, and it's also getting utilized to produce tooling and end parts, something that we use in our factories too. Talk about dealerships, another aspect of the automotive spectrum, the dealerships and after-sales service centers. They are experiencing very poor footfall today. And to act to this challenge, connected car services will open avenues for remote services that will further cut the revenues for automakers and dealerships. The customer retention is therefore a challenge as existing and new intermediaries continue to steer service business away from these automakers' workshops, and they move on to lower priced independent service stations. Again, there are large digital players such as eBay, Amazon, Alibaba, who are looking for a share of this spare parts business. And likely, this is leading to declining margins. And once they have accumulated enough, it will also go on to buying power. But if you go further into the trends, EV along with shared mobility and autonomous driving would intensify also the challenges for dealerships. So how can these dealerships continue to remain in the business, right? And the simple answer is by improving their customer experience. I would like to share a short story of an unhappy customer. Here is a customer, let's call him Mr. X. His car breaks down and he has plans for the day, which go awry. And he calls to the service center and he has to wait, he has to wait for almost 2 hours to get his vehicle picked up. There's a long way to the service center again and to get his vehicle inspected. And thereafter, this entire day goes for a toss and he's informed that he has to collect the car the next day. And the next day, the service center again charges more than the estimation provided over the call. And thereafter, he has to send his driver to collect the car, but there is no payment wallet facility there. So he has to then go himself and get the car collected. And then on his way back, he's wondering, whether he should sell his car, and wonders if, other people are facing similar unpleasant experiences. And then I'll share the case of, Mr. Y, who never has a problem with servicing his car. His car is equipped with sensors that collect data of, his car's health. He also has a mobile app that allows him to record, visible and audible defects, which he can himself share, as well as his dealership utilizes Prophecy for predicting car outages, which is our solution. And it captures historical data from the service center, manual inputs on the mobile from the owner, and also the real-time inputs coming in from the sensors. And then through these inputs, it's able to predict potential outages even before they happen. And it's sending an alert to the vehicle owner on his app to book his service appointment within a specific time window so that preventive maintenance can happen. And then the dealership, where he's booking the appointment, it receives the car data along with the appointment schedule. So Mr. Y only has to drop his car with the keys, or he could have it, picked up from his doorstep. And he doesn't have to wait at the center. And also, since they're aware that it will take more than a day, a swap car is arranged for him. And he also gets to know beforehand the amount that he needs to pay, and gets regular updates on his app. And then he makes the payment from his e-wallet. The car is brought back at his door, right? So as you see, a happy customer is of course a sticky customer. So enterprises can survive disruptions by implementing technologies with a holistic view like AI, machine learning, robotics, and automation. Ability to integrate information from multiple locations across enterprises, of course, allows enterprises to have end-to-end visibility across operations. And by utilizing smart technologies that can capture, monitor, and report on the activities across complex networks in real time, enterprises can definitely achieve real resilience and augment labor-heavy tasks using robotics as well as pre-programmed automated responses to different scenarios. Thanks again, Arun, and over to you.
Thanks so much, Hari, for your deep insights into the manufacturing sector and the adoption of digital technologies, especially in the automotive sector. So, autonomous cars, EVs, 3D printing, the wonders of connected vehicles, and the, how they bring about fantastic customer experience. The move to shared mobility, probably that's on the horizon, and autonomous driving, and that may probably converge with EVs themselves. And I love that image. Happy customer is a sticky customer. So thank you so much for that. Now, coming over to you, Stephen, I know many people, including the panelists here and myself, have been waiting with bated breath to hear you. You heard that the issues around AI ethics and governance are very much prevalent today. You probably heard every one of the preceding speakers refer to that. Now, your views on this, and how should the industry address the issues around this, especially as it relates to trust, data security, and privacy? And in your opinion, how can India and US collaborate and cooperate on these issues? Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Arun. There are, multiple issues involved in the area of ethics and AI. And I'm not sure I really wanted to go into all of those issues, but I'd rather zero in on what I think is the most important aspect when it comes to ethics, and that is the effect of bias. So bias is there when you have human intelligence involved, as well as when you have artificial intelligence involved. And you have to remember that AI, there is a human being who sits behind AI and who determines, what are the factors at play that go into the algorithm and so on. So I think, bias can work both ways. In some ways, it can be used to discriminate against people. It can be used to treat people unfairly. There's the case in the US where certain US states were using AI tools to determine whether somebody is a threat when applying for bail or not. And then they realized that there was a bias against people who were Black. On the other hand, you might be able to remove bias by removing names, a person's religion, race, and so on. And accordingly, that may create a more fair, assessment of people. So I think, I think that's the main issue that I see in ethics, which is how you eliminate bias, or how you determine what are the factors that are driving a particular AI system, and doing it not only intelligently, but doing it fairly and in a non-discriminatory way. Now, if you don't get it quite right, it depends on what kind of relationship is at play. So if, for instance, it's a government-citizen relationship, then very likely, discrimination claims could result. If it's a business, it may relate more to a duty of care, not having been satisfied and so on. The other key issue with AI, and you talked about that, data privacy, is the use of data. How do you collect data, process data? And of course, data is absolutely, what drives artificial intelligence. So we have many models of how you regulate the world of privacy. The previous model was very much a consent model, where a business needs your data, wants to use it for a particular purpose. They send you certain terms, you agree to those terms, and then they do whatever they want. And that's really not a fair system, because nobody's reading those terms, neither am I. And even if you don't like it, there's not very much you can do about it. A few years ago, we had the GDPR come into force in the EU, and that's kind of considered the gold standard. And you're seeing other countries slowly moving towards a GDPR type standard. While you do have consent there as well, you do have a concept called legitimate interest, which means that a business can determine that I have a legitimate interest to collect this particular data and to use this data in a particular way. And therefore, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I don't need your consent. One has to really develop a kind of case for that legitimate interest. And here's where you have to draw a distinction between data that may be used to provide a service versus data that could have some value sometime in the future, or could drive the service in some way in the future, and you don't know what that is. So the question then is, what is legitimate, what is essential, and what is not? GDPR itself has a condition, a provision which says that an individual has a right not to be processed based entirely on an automated processing. But there are some exceptions. Consent is one. Government measures by the individual, the concerned state within the EU is another. Or if that service is absolutely essential for the performance of the contract. Coming to the Indian situation, we as of now don't have a proper privacy law in place. We do have a personal data protection bill that was drafted and released about 2 years ago. And it was sent to a committee of Parliament in December last year. And that committee has been deliberating on the bill, and it's not, we've not seen much progress yet. There were some changes in the composition due to some members becoming ministers. And I expect you'll probably see a report sometime in the next month, or at least by the end of this year. The Indian law it doesn't deal very much with AI. It does exclude data which is anonymized, meaning once you've anonymized it, then you take it out of the realm of the statute. And unlike in the EU, where you have this concept of legitimate interest, under the Indian law, consent is absolutely mandatory. But there are, again, provisions there that you can use data only when it's essential and so on. And so the issue again arises, what's essential? How do you build that case? And I guess, we need to have a body of case law that will probably develop out of the EU, which would deal with that. But there's another very interesting issue that has arisen, that is kind of driven from India, really, and that is this concept of non-personal data. So what's happening here is the government appointed a committee. It had mostly government representatives, but one or two people from the industry. And essentially, they issued a report which said that non-personal data should be shared in certain situations. So this could be two types of data. One is data which is non-personal in nature, for example, weather information or traffic, vehicle traffic information. And the other is personal data, which is anonymized. And essentially, the government is suggesting that businesses should be required to share that data. And it could be free of cost, or it could be based on certain licensing norms. And the grounds for that could be, one could be, public interest, where the data is, important from a public interest point of view. Once again, if you take, say, Google Maps, for instance, might have useful information for the traffic department of the police. So that would be one example of that. But the other one is where they talk about community data and the idea that some data is not owned by an individual or by a business, but it is community data that's owned by the state. So that is a bit, problematic. And what they are suggesting here is that we need to build a level playing field. So a big, large corporation has collected a crazy amount of data, may be required to share that data with, let's say, a startup, so that there's a level playing field. Obviously, there's a level of fairness in this. There's a level of unfairness. I've collected all this data. I've built my business. I've spent a lot of money. I may not even be making profit, but I'm required to do this. So the report is essentially suggesting a separate statute to deal with this. I personally believe, because the Personal Data Protection Bill already has a provision that deals with sharing data from a public purpose standpoint, that one could provide an enabling provision in the statute. I'm skeptical about these concepts, but I don't think they're concepts one should dismiss outright. The world is changing, the use of data is changing, and who knows, tomorrow the EU may be taking up this particular approach themselves. So I would say tread slowly, tread carefully, but don't shut your door on this idea. So that's roughly my remarks on ethics and on data privacy.
Thank you so much, Stephen. The issues around ethics, the effects of bias and the need to eliminate bias from the systems, the issues of trust, data security, privacy are always very sensitive. So thank you for demystifying some of these for us in the short time that was made available to you. Thank you so much for your insights and your recommendations. With that, folks, we are at the end of our time here today, and thank you so much for an amazing and fascinating session. My extreme gratitude to all these speakers and distinguished guests here on the panel, and thank you to the audience for listening to us, and hope you enjoyed it and it was relevant for you. So thank you all, and with that, back to admin, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks, Arun, and everyone.
Take care. Bye.